What's up, BookTube? Welcome back. My name is Laura if you're new here, and today I'm talking about books with disabled characters. So July is Disability Pride Month, which I actually didn't know about until this year. So I've been seeing posts all over Instagram and TikTok and probably YouTube as well. I haven't looked much on YouTube of people recommending books with disabled characters in them, so I thought I would join in and add in some of my own. This will be mostly fantasy books, but there are two romance in here as well, so I'll start with those two. Starting with the book that actually inspired this video, which is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a adult contemporary romance series, and each book follows a different sister. So in the first one, it follows Chloe Brown, who was a woman who has spent her entire life dealing with chronic illness. She has fibromyalgia and I think a couple of other things as well, but it affects her life so greatly that she just hasn't really lived very much because she's usually in too much pain, and she's lost a lot of friends because they just don't have the patience to kind of stick around while she's dealing with this pain. I think she's in her 20s and she has a near-death experience. She's almost hit by a car, and she realizes that if she were to die right now, she would not die happy. She has not lived enough. She hasn't allowed herself to feel joy and experience new things and go on adventures as a result of her illness. And so she decides that she wants to take her life into her own hands, and she makes a list of things that she wants to do, and she ends up enlisting the help of her landlord slash repairman, I think it is, of her apartment, who's a leather jacket wearing motorcycle riding badass of a guy, and they do not get along whatsoever, but he seems like the kind of guy who can get her on these adventures that she so desperately wants to go on. And so she asks for his help and they agree, and of course they fall in love along the way. I loved this book so much. Surprisingly steamy. The steamy scenes are a lot, so definitely a lot steamier than the average romance novel that I read, at least. The writing in this book is incredible. I loved the characters, but mainly I love the disability rep in this. I personally struggle with chronic pain as well, not to the degree that Chloe Brown does, but similar to her, it affects every aspect of my life, and a big part of that is my relationships. Every single time that I meet somebody new, whether it's platonic or romantic, I have to at some point try and figure out how to naturally work in the fact that I deal with chronic pain, and there are some things that I can't do, and it is always an awkward conversation, and it usually follows up with invasive questions and people giving me advice that I didn't ask for, and I see a lot of that reflected in Chloe's character arc. But the biggest thing that I just appreciate so much in this book is trying to navigate a romantic relationship with this, especially the things that come along with dating somebody and how difficult that can be to navigate those things while you deal with chronic pain. A lot of people who deal with chronic illnesses have the same issue that Chloe talks about in the book, where it can be really awkward to try and navigate things with a new partner and have them learn what's okay and what's not when it comes to your pain, and what things you're capable of doing and what you're not able to do. It is awkward, and you have no choice but to be vulnerable, and honestly it fucking sucks. And I love the way that was explored in this book. It's something that I struggle to know how to find the words to talk about, so seeing somebody else be able to talk about it was just so therapeutic for me, to know that other people also struggle with this. And again, my pain is nowhere near as bad as Chloe's is or other people's. Maybe I don't have to take any medication for mine, but it still affects every single part of my life, and just seeing that represented in a book meant so much to me. I cried my way through this, just seeing a character that gets it. So I loved this book for that. I thought it was incredible. Just as a book in general, it was amazing, but especially this part of it I loved so much. And then the other romance novel on here is Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. This one is a romance novel about a actress and her assistant who are photographed on the red carpet making each other laugh, and rumors start to fly from there that they are secretly dating, and they kind of want to squash those rumors, but it also might be kind of true. So it is a very, very slow burn romance. I think it takes place over the course of a year or something like that. It's incredibly slow burn, but it is so fucking worth it. Oh my god, this romance was amazing. I loved it so much. But in this one, our main character has asthma, and throughout the book she has several asthma attacks. It was actually mentioned quite frequently, and it's kind of a big part of her whole character story as well. We have some very tender moments between the two love interests while she's helping to nurse her back to health while she's having an asthma attack, and just reading the concern and the love and care and everything. It was really nice, so I loved that as well. It was a great one, and I do recommend it as well. And then moving on to some fantasy stuff, the first one that I wanted to talk about is The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. This is a middle grade graphic novel series. There are 3 books. In this one, they're not main characters, but there is a side character who is present throughout all 3 books, and he is in a wheelchair as a result of an injury that he got while adventuring with his husband, fighting dragons and slaying monsters and all this cool stuff. I think it was mentioned in one of the books where like somebody from their past is at their house and he asks if they miss adventuring at all, since they had to obviously stop after his injury, and he just kind of says that he's perfectly happy with his life. Him being in a wheelchair has never posed as a problem. It was just something that happened in his life, and now here he is and he's still perfectly happy, and I thought that was wonderful. And then it was either in the first or the second book, there was also on page American Sign Language being used, which I'd never seen used in a graphic novel before, so I thought that was pretty interesting too. And then I've got The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi Lee. This is the first book in a trilogy, or like will be a trilogy. The third one doesn't come out until later this year, but this one is a series that takes place sometime in the 1700s. They don't actually say which year it is for some reason, but it follows our main character Monty, who was going on his coming of age tour with his sister and his longtime best friend slash secret crush Percy, and like things go horribly wrong. They have a whole adventure and there's like pirates involved and like it's a lot of fun. But in this one, Percy, the best friend slash love interest, has epilepsy during a time where there was not even a word for epilepsy. It's seen as more of like a mental illness, and he's facing essentially threats of being put into a mental institution and spending the rest of his life there because they didn't have the like medical advancements to know how to deal with it at the time. And his epilepsy is a big part of this series as well. It is mentioned frequently. He has like multiple attacks throughout the course of this book. And yeah, I love this series. I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely not perfect. It's kind of cheesy at times, but like personally for me, it is cheesy in the best way possible. So I still really enjoy this one. Next up is The Devouring Grape by Lynne Herman. This is a like urban fantasy set in a very small misty town in which there are 4 founding families, and these families all have some kind of power that work together to help keep this thing called the Grey at bay. The Grey is this monster type thing that lives in the mist, and it is very murderous. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forget like why it exists or like what its purpose is. It's been a while since I read the first book, so I'm a little hazy on the details, but either way, this is a multi-perspective book, and one of the main characters is a amputee. She lost either a hand or the whole arm, I'm not sure which one it was, and she is an absolute fucking badass. I'm pretty sure she lost her dominant hand, but she does not let that stop her. She has been training in secret to learn how to wield a fucking sword with her left hand because she is determined to still be able to fight the Grey and take her rightful place as one of the founding family members. So I thought she was so fucking cool. I wasn't personally the biggest fan of this book, but her character was definitely one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. And then the last book that I have today is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This was the first book in the Shades of Magic trilogy, which I just fucking adore. I love this series so much. This is also a multi-perspective book, and in this one of the main characters, Lila, she is missing an eye. I don't remember if she was born that way or if she lost it later in life, but either way she has a glass eye, and she actually uses that to her advantage throughout the book because people never realize that she is missing an eye, and so she's like found ways to kind of like use that to her advantage throughout the course of this trilogy, and she is just such a badass. She's that character trope where it's like somebody asks them to like take off all their weapons and she just has to like sit there and just remove like 8,000 fucking knives from her coat. Like, I love her. She's hilarious and just an absolute badass. She takes no shit from anybody, and she was easily one of the best parts of this entire trilogy. I adore Lila so much. So those are some books with disabled characters in them. If you have any other recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comments for others to check out. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!